ATG Outdoors. What I want to call this episode and the other ones that are coming out, I'm going to call them the Q&As, the questions and answers, because I have people ask me questions about what I use and the type of archery equipment I use, what type of stands I do. So I figured, why not? I'll just try to answer questions, one at a time. Each segment, each video is going to be basically on one question. And this one here is going to be based on broadheads. And I'm not going to break broadheads down from fixed broadheads to mechanical broadheads and this and that, because it's been done. It's been beat to death. What I just want to talk about is what I feel, what I'm confident in, and that's a big thing. What you're confident in, and why I chose the broadhead I do, as far as an even size. Why I shoot a smaller broadhead and I don't choose a large broadhead. So it's kind of a little bit of the broadhead and why I don't shoot a big and I shoot like an inch and an eighth. And I think that's what the G5's dead meats are, whatever they are, inch and an eighth, inch and a quarter, something like that. The reason why I shoot a smaller broadhead, and it kind of comes back with my son we're talking about. He's an engineer by trade. Go Clemson Tigers. And we were talking about it one day, him and we were talking about broadheads in general. Why one over another? And he said, well, as far as the broadhead itself, I don't know too much about it because I don't bow hunt like you do. I mean, you can answer as far as the broadhead itself. What I can answer, Dad, is why I feel a smaller broadhead is better than a larger broadhead, a big expandable like the Rage, the G5 Mega Meat, stuff like that. I mean, here's an old Rocket broadhead, and you can see how far out that blade is from the ferrule. And what he explained, he said it's almost like a pendulum effect. When that hits something, it wants to kick it out of the way because it's like a running back running through the hole and he doesn't tighten up. He's all flared out. He's going to get knocked around and you could see it. That's why when a running back runs through the hole, he tucks in tight so his run is true, and it's the same thing with us. So the shot stays true. It doesn't want to steer. It doesn't get deflected at the end. Up in here, it's hard for it. It's almost like a stick. Like a long stick is easy to break. The smaller it gets, the tougher it is. It's the same principle like a broadhead. Closer to the ferrule that hits anything inside the deer, it still wants to stay true to the shot. Like I said, and when something like this that's far away from the ferrule, that's why I gravitated towards the G5 dead meats. It's a small broadhead. The ferrule's made, it might as well be a nail. It's almost impossible to screw it up. I mean, I'm sure if you hit a rock after you go through and it will. But the blades themselves will get messed up. But I think they have a principle even behind the blades as far as why they're not so rigid, because they could flex. Like I said, it's like that running back when he goes through the hole and he hits a lineman, he kind of flexes to try to work his way back through the hole. And that's the same principle like a broadhead. And you can see these. This one is a 2-blade and this is a 3-blade. The 3-blade I prefer because I think 3 holes, 3 rips, a triangle, it tries to stay open. 2 that slash, it's easy for it to close. So that's why, I mean, as far as myself, that's why I like to shoot a smaller broadhead. I think it stays more true to the shot. It has less chance of deflection, like I said, because it's even when it opens up. I mean, you could see these things when here's one opened up. It's very, very close to the ferrule. It's not a lot of gap between the ferrule and the end of that blade. And even at the angle it's at, it's more, that's what another thing I like, a blade that's more on an angle like that. So it's not a chopping effect, it's a slicing effect. Has less chance for that blade, and you can see it, less chance for that blade. Here they are all deployed. Oh man, I opened them up. Hold on. Here it is all deployed, and you can see it's like a bullet. And that's what I like about them. I think the dead meats stay the truest. And another thing about dead meats, and I was told, and I'm not sure how true it is, that the company that makes the blades for these make surgical equipment. That's why they're extremely sharp. And that's another thing you got to really be conscious about, because when this broadhead is going into the body, inside a human body, everything's made to move. I mean, you can see it. If it wasn't, when, like I said, here I go again with the running back. If a running back ran into the hole and he slammed into a lineman, he would break. I mean, and it's bad enough he could break bone, and I understand that don't move. But even that flexes out of the way because it's all built on sockets and everything else. And arteries and tendons, they're all meant to move. So if it's not sharp, when it hits, it'll try to push it. You know, you can picture the broadhead going through and moving it out of the way. You know, when it hits something, it just tries, could be an artery, could be a tendon. And if that broadhead goes in and it isn't sharp, it'll move it out of the way before it slices it. You want something, everything it touches, it cuts. So, and that's where you get the hemorrhaging from. I know it sounds graphic. You get the bleeding from, but that's what causes in archery. That's what causes, excuse me, that's what causes, the death of the animal. The harvest of the animal is hemorrhaging, bleeding. That's it. It's not shock. It's it's hemorrhaging. And so the sharper the broadhead, the better. For me, the smaller broadheads seem to have a better principle behind it. And I'm glad that, G5 makes a smaller one, but they also make the mega meat. If you like the mega meat, shoot it. Because I'll tell you another thing with archery, it's confidence. It's what you feel confident in. If you're not confident in the equipment you're using, the broadheads you're using, the arrows you're using, let me tell you, you got two strikes against you, because you're going to blame that on if something was to happen. You're not going to blame it on yourself. You're going to blame it on the equipment. And so find the equipment you feel confident. No, you don't have to shoot, $100 freaking iron will. You don't have to shoot, $80 beast broadhead, but they're good. They're all good. If you like those broadheads and you feel confident in, use them, because they'll do. I mean, they're great broadheads, but so are these. So are the less expensive ones. They're so quality, less expensive. They're not cheaper. They're not cheaper. They're just less expensive, and they will do the job. Like I said, the biggest thing you want is accuracy. If you're accurate with it, it'll perform, as long as it's, make sure they're sharp. So with that, to break it down, a sharp broadhead, an accurate broadhead, and a broadhead you're confident with. That's what you're looking for. ATG Outdoors. Oh God, I need work. I just started exercising again. ATG Outdoors, Bodies and Bows. And another thing, guys, let's support our local archery shops. We need them. Let's stick together. None of this bickering back and forth, crossbow hunters against bow hunters and everything. We got to stick together. We got to, or we're going to lose what we have. We're losing it fast enough as it is. Again, support your local archery shops and be safe. ATG Outdoors, Bodies and Bows, like I always say, just do it.